I just wanna That's wild. But yeah, y'all also released a 7-inch single with a live song from that set, correct?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I got a copy of that at Psych Fest. They only had like two available, and my buddy was working like the merch stand. I was like, "Can you please stash this to me?" Because like their point of sale system was like not working, and so he's like, "Dude, I got you." So yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun.
We record all of our live sets, pretty much everything for the past, I mean, it must be 3, 4 years, something going on. Maybe since I've even been in the band, we've recorded almost every single set at this point, and I think we've got video for most of it too. As long as we've had Web touring with us, he usually gets some kind of video in the back. So we have a pretty decent backlog of almost every show we've played in the past handful of years. Um,
That's
don't know
wild.
what that means, but it's there.
So I assume y'all recorded the set at Psych Fest back in April. Are the bass tracks on that or what I don't even what happened with that set? Like something with y'all's like bass tracks or something was
Yeah,
broken, maybe
so
some
there was
keys. Yeah.
unfortunately like some kind of miscommunication, and when it comes to like booking all this, there's a lot of hands like paper can go through or just like input lists, let's just say, and
Yeah.
things can get it's a huge festival and so many things going on, and all it takes is one cable to be honest, I don't even really know what happened. There was some technical issue where we couldn't get the bass tracks rolling, and I know it just popped out like halfway through our set. It just came on, and we were like, "Oh, all right, there we go." um, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's it's part of it, unfortunately, and you just figure it out and go along with it.
Yeah. So is there a reason y'all don't play with like a live bass player anymore? Like when I saw y'all had a bass player in Shaking Knees, but I don't know if y'all have had one since.
Yeah,
I
it's
might be
funny.
wrong.
It's kind of always been a little bit situational. So we brought a bassist Zoltan with us who plays in a band Program Eek. Um, and we have him anytime we can. We love Zoltan. He's amazing bassist, amazing person. Love touring with him. But he also works at an amazing studio, has his own band and other commitments and things like that.
Yeah.
And we've had other bassists like when we started the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. Um, we tour on the West Coast. We had a bassist with us, but unfortunately, he got really, really sick, and we had to fly him home. And since then, it's kind of just been situational where it can be hard to find um, someone to get on the road last minute to do some of these shows. And to be honest, we've had the conversation. We'd rather go out and make the shows happen in the best way we can rather than have to cancel and move shows. And it's that's a bummer. That's like worst case scenario is canceling shows, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah. That's
so we
rough.
do everything we can to do that. And the hope and goal is, we'll find someone very consistent in the near future, potentially, and have a touring basis for sure. As a drummer, it's a trade-off. I really sometimes love playing with tracks because there's so much consistency, and we can do some really cool different things with that
Yeah.
consistency. But at the same time, there's this meshing that happens when you have a live bassist and that sort of thing. So we're gonna do what we can to make the show happen always.
Yeah. Just got to keep on rocking. I saw y'all
Yeah.
did, or I think I saw like a story of y'all the other week, or maybe it was during the summer. I can't remember. It wasn't too long ago, but I think either Sean or Vaughn was playing bass, and y'all were in like this crazy like space, like this crazy lights behind y'all, lots of smoke. What was that?
So we may or may not be working on some kind of new music and some visuals behind that. Um, yeah, we were in a studio working on some video stuff. Webb, who is Vaughn's brother and does our visuals, he has access to a studio right now, and so we're just doing some experimenting with all sorts of new stuff that he's learning with. Um, you'll just have to see actually. There's gonna be some cool stuff. We're doing some cool experimenting for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. Is I mean, I don't know if this is appropriate to ask, but is there like a record coming, or is it y'all are just like still figuring stuff out,
We're
sort of
definitely
kind of thing?
working on a lot of new music for
Okay.
sure. A lot
Okay.
of new music. So, whether that means a whole album or two whole albums or, a couple singles, we're not sure. We have a good amount of music that we're just working on and seeing what kind of comes of it. And, as a band, that's kind of what we've been focusing on right now. We did a lot of touring the past handful of years, and
Yeah.
we we're we want to spend some time in the studio and make like a really good record and make some really cool songs. So at the end of the day, the best part about all of this is just getting in the studio and jamming with my friends, and that's the core of all this for me. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
Working
that's great,
hard.
man. Does I mean you work for Reverberation Appreciation Society. Does the label like expect anything like time wise from the bands on the label? Like we want music by then, or we want music videos, or just like some sort of content, just like to keep people sort of like fed. Like, is there any expectations with that kind of thing?
There's no like, in terms of like written expectations, and you think of like Universal or someone like you have to have an album cycle and all these things. No, definitely not. But I think what is really cool about working with them is the open communication, and telling them, this is what we're going to be working on, and then they're able to support us in however they can through there. And that's why we love working with them and being with them. That little bit of freedom to kind of say, hey, we're going to spend a little extra time on this, or we're going to, and trying to develop a plan with them to make it all work for us. um, would they probably love us to release a bunch of records in a year and all the time? I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I but bands work in a lot of different ways, and a lot of our friends are able to maybe release more and put out more records. But just the way that we work in the studio, we're very meticulous and really, uh, we just like to spend time. We really like to spend time because we like the process a lot. We really like recording. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. I feel like I've only been in the band for probably like a year or two now, and we recorded our first record. I had never been in the studio in my entire life, but like we went in there with like a plan to record like all of these songs that we've been practicing forever. And then like when we get in there, like there's like so many doors that like open. Like you can get so creative, like with such a nice space, and even like a great producer, like because their input, I feel like it showed us like that there's really no limits. Like you can do whatever you want, and I feel like just like being able to do that process or experience that is such a privilege. I really enjoyed that. Um,
Yeah.
but what like is are you guys recording in Brooklyn or somewhere in New York or whatever?
Yeah, so we actually have our own studio that we basically run and operate. I mean, I want to say operate, it's not like we have
Mhm.
we definitely do have bands that we come and record and stuff, but it's not like a functional working studio in that sense. It's more of a private studio that we work out of. Again, Zoltan, who played bass with us, who plays in Program Me, they rent out the studio as well and they share it with us. So we're very, very fortunate in New York to have a space that we can have all of our equipment and more or less, well, not more or less, 100% we have 24-hour access and can go jam till it doesn't matter. Um, so we have the time, and when we'll clear a couple of days and just spend time in the studio. And sometimes, we've come to terms like you can't always be productive. And, some days we go in and we write freestyle raps or something just for fun. And like it feels productive because we're doing something creative and we're trying to break some bounds of like like we're just trying to create really cool music and something that we're going to be like proud of and we would want to listen to ourselves. So it's important to break down barriers, and when you do things like kind of funny and silly, it like it opens this communication when you're actually serious about music, or when you're really work shedding and a problem comes up, it's not as heavy-hearted and this big deal. It's fun. The music should be fun. It's a celebration of life, and yelling to the the world. Like, it should be, that expression for the most part. And so yeah, we spend a lot of time in our studio in Brooklyn just working away.
Yeah. Do you feel like having like that studio access like makes you a different sort of like writer, like in terms of like composition? Like I feel like if you have access to a studio, you're probably like just going there, hanging out, like writing music, opposed to like being at home and sort of just like trying to think of like the best song ever, like to send to your bandmates, because like you can only get
Yeah.
together so often. I don't know. I feel like like your ability to write or like the way you write music might change
Yeah,
in
it's
that sort of
interesting. I never
sense.
thought about it, but it definitely does affect the way we write. And while it takes off these pressures of, we gotta write the song, we gotta learn the song perfect, and we gotta go in the studio because you're paying $100 an hour,
Mhm.
whatever it is. And, you gotta nail it. And that creates a different song. Absolutely. And I think that we're able to spend the time in the studio, you know, and we're recording ourselves. There's no limit to that. So we're able to just go in and again experiment, whether that works out or not. Um, and to a point, I will say it might it's maybe not rushing us as much as it has in the past, So um but I think we're able to take a little more time now for once, and not for once because we've always had like access to studios like that. But this is kind of the first time we've had like 24 access and we can just go and it feels like you're at home still. It feels like the studio is our second home and we go there just to gather and hang out a lot of times too. Birthday parties and all those sorts of things. So it's definitely a second home. But yeah, it definitely affects the way I don't know exactly how it affects the way we write, but I think we can be a little more meticulous and a little more experimental for sure.
Yeah, that's killer. I sort of want to hop over to like talking about y'all's tours. Y'all just had the Psychedelic Porn Carpets tour and the Wine Lips tour, which was crazy. I remember I texted, I like DM'd like their like Wine Lips band account. I was like, when you guys come into Austin, like please come to Austin. And like literally 2 days later, y'all announced y'all's like tour down here to Psych Fest. I was like, whoa, Christmas came way early. Um, how did you meet those fools? Like, I'm so curious how y'all linked together.
Yeah, so I mean, Horn Crumpets were, I think that mostly came through our connection with our agent and our manager at the time. Um, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was an idea for the Porn Crumpets of they were going on tour and needed US support. Um, and I will say after the first or second day with Porn Crumpets, best buds. I mean, I can't say enough good things about all of those people. I mean, touring with them was the best thing ever, like every single night was amazing, just the sweetest people. And similar thing with Wine Lips. Again, it was just very similar fan base and a lot of similar people to come out to the shows. And it's like also I'm a big fan of Wine Lips. I love Wine Lips and Porn Crumpets, of course.
Yeah.
But mostly, mostly through management and also, Wine Lips is releasing through Reverb as well.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
not
new.
sure if that was known then or, but it could have been part of it for sure.
Yeah,
But
I
what a good
just
match for sure, in my opinion.
yeah, that's I mean, when I saw that announcement the other day, like my friend and I were super big Wine Lips fans. Like that set that they had on the small stage at Psych Fest was so good. That was like prime time. And like I feel like that little stage, like you can only go up from there. Like
Yeah.
that big
Yeah.
like playing on that big stage, you have maybe like a higher expectation or like you need to feed the crowd more. But when you're on like that little stage, it just boom, spotlight,
Oh
crazy.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
such a
Yeah. I,
such a
I
great
really
set.
like that little stage a lot. Like I saw Daystar this past festival and I've been a, fan of them for a while, as long as I've kind of known about them, which it hasn't been that long, but
Yeah.
um that performance was amazing. And yeah, everyone on that small stage, just like you said, the expectation, there isn't as much, I wouldn't say expectation, but maybe pressure. And
Yeah,
it
pressure.
feels like a DIY, like,
Yeah,
it's cool. I love it.
that place. Yeah, that stage rules. Daystar is also great. Like I know they're pretty new, but their music is so good.
They're one
I
of my favorite new artists by far. Like they're a great band. Great,
Yeah,
great band.
I feel like I mean it was great. It's great that like Fuzz Club picked them up.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see them being on Reverb in like the near
Well, I
future.
mean, especially, Alex Moss has a big hand in
Oh
producing
yeah.
as well. And, so the whole thing. And I know they work very closely together.
Yeah. I feel like
Um,
anything that Alex like it just like turns like to gold sort of.
yeah,
He's
definitely,
great.
definitely. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's interesting because we work really closely with Fuzz Club, and it's kind of like this really symbiotic relationship. You sign on to Reverb, you sign on to Fuzz Club. It's not an official thing by any means, but you kind of get that relationship, across seas. And we did an edition for Daystar as well, um, through Reverb, and so yeah, it's kind of like it is an interesting kind of take, but you almost are kind of there's very symbiotic relationship for sure. I mean, we do a lot of records with them. We send them a lot of records. Yeah, love Fuzz Club.
That's wild. So like being a part of Reverb, like what is like your role, I guess.
Yeah, so the main thing that I've been doing for the longest with them actually is running their YouTube channel.
Ooh.
And in the terms of like uh doing like SEO and doing kind of the finer like building playlist, in screens, like all those kind of like technical things on YouTube. Um I also do some product management and some video ad work and a lot of different things. But my main thing is mostly working on their YouTube, and that's basically how I started working with them. Was I actually I run and manage a lot of different YouTube channels. That's part of some of the work I do outside of the record label. And I came to Harry one day and kind of didn't even think about it as like something I could help them with, but I was just giving him kind of pointers like, hey, you should do this and that. And he kind of had the idea of like, hey, like we could have you help us do that kind of thing. Um, and then from there, it's kind of blossomed into this relationship. And yeah.
That's wild. I mean I've never really thought about um roles of like a record of a record label that extensively. I mean, I can imagine like artist management, like record distribution, but I guess there's way more to it than I thought. That's really neat. That's a niche. That's a very niche role to have, but that's so
It
sick.
is, yeah.
That's
Well, it was
wild.
also kind of during the time when started levitation sessions and all that, and there was a lot more work to be put in to the YouTube. And in terms of roles in a record label too, I mean, graphic design and video work is one of the most needed things. Like, my wife, Devon Shaw, she does all the graphic design and everything, and she's kept very busy there for sure. And there's a lot of roles that depends on the label. Harry takes on a lot of the roles there, and we all wear different hats each day. Everyone kind of runs the social media. Everyone is posting on, there's all sorts of things we can contribute, and it's really just working as a team and getting things done as a team.
That's great. Are you like self-taught for all of this? I remember I spoke to you a little bit at Empire at like the Alton Goon show at Levitation. And I can't remember if you said you went to college or not for that. I can't remember.
No, actually, I remember. I think I didn't. I have not gone to college. I actually dropped out of my senior year in high school. And I remember, I think I was trying to yell at you, like, stay in school.
I think I
Um,
remember that. Yeah,
yeah.
that was great.
Well, to
Um
answer your question,
yeah.
yeah, mostly self-taught. I mean, the ironic part is I learned a lot of my YouTube things that I know from YouTube, which is kind of ironic. I spent a lot of time doing like experiments on YouTube, testing like the algorithm, testing different SEO things. And I've been getting into more programming and some more technical things like that. But yeah, yeah, I really like learning and I really like self-learning. And it's what it feels like, creating music and it gives other things outside of that and relates back to music all the time. Um, so yeah.
That's wild. Um, so for like, I don't know how to put this, but is that is that like I would imagine that's a little more stressful than like making your music and trying to put that out on platforms. I feel like working for a label might be a little more stressful than creating like trying to be like creative and put out music. But that's got to be more heavy, I guess, plate wise.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things where being a musician is my job. There's um there's a certain level of like working for a label, there's other people relying on you. There's other bands. Wine Lips shouldn't be punished because I didn't show up for work or something. Bad example, but there's other people who are
True.
relying on you. And so yeah, it is a lot more on the plate. Um, but it's not like a nuisance or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like when you do something, it's the cheesy thing, you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. I do love working with the label and doing the things that I do. So when I hop into work or I'm hopping on my computer and I'm doing product management or all these things, it doesn't bother me. It in some way feels like playing music. You get the same kind of yeah, it especially working for a label and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to completely agree. Like, I do a couple things for the radio station here. Like, I help book our like monthly showcases, and I just got recruited to work like our new bin, like uploading like artist music to like our rotation or whatever. And
Mhm.
I've never really felt like, ugh, I have to like do this or whatever. It's like this is like so rad. Like college radio, this like rules. Like
Absolutely.
I've only been a part of the station for like since like the summer, but it's fun. Like having a show, like I get to talk to cool people like you, get to be on air, get to listen to cool music. Like everyone at the station's super nice. So
Yeah.
it's never like crossed my mind to like, oh, this sucks. Because like
Yeah. Yeah.
that can definitely happen
Sure,
with
sure. I mean,
other
people can get,
stuff.
worn down and work gets hard and, things happen, but I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, I look around all the time and I'm like, I feel very, very fortunate and very lucky. As much hard work and thing, hours I've put into all these things, there is a very high level of luck that has contributed to all this. And I feel very blessed and lucky to work with the people I work with. I get to work with my wife every day. I get to work with people that I really respect. Harry Portnoff, I have a lot of respect for him. He's done a lot for our band and he has taught me a lot about being an entrepreneur and so to work with people like that and Rob as well. Um, it's inspiring and it's also like what we're all passionate about. I love the idea like what I'm doing is helping people discover music and helping bands, further their career and further their dreams and like I love nothing more than like watching a band sell out some records or sell out a show and like I had a part of that. That's the best feeling in the world. Apart from doing it myself, being on stage and seeing the people around me side stage who have helped me get there as well. Because I could not do this without it, the whole team I have behind me, no doubt.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah,
that's killer. Okay, I need to play like two ads real quick,
cool.
and we'll come back and then we'll keep talking.
Sounds
Okay,
great.
I'm gonna just throw these suckers on. Need to mute my mic.
Hey there, this is Strawberry Guy, and you're listening to KBRX Austin HD1/HD2.
This got like 30 seconds.
The University Writing Center. At the Writing Center, you can find a consultant that's a good fit for you. We use our tried and tested, non-directive, non-evaluative approach, including your writing on your time and in your way.
This is my cat who's been trying to get up here.
We already found that South by Southwest is over. Did you miss the next big act making their debut? Well, KVRX has your back. Check out kvix.org for a complete festival recap, including artist interviews, concert photos, and more. Until next year, enjoy the peace and quiet from your friends with KVRX.
Okay, we are back. Sorry about that. We're supposed to
All
play
good.
like ads every 30 minutes or something like that. Yeah, next thing I wanted to ask about, I did a little bit of digging to see like what other bands you played in, and I found two. I found Sonic Graffiti and Plastic Pinks. Super sick bands. I saw like
Thank you.
I love Witch in My Heart. I saw like this video of y'all playing. The video was trash. Like it was the most awful lighting ever. But you were like up in the back and just this beam of light coming down on you. And y'all played Witch in My Heart. It was just so heavy. It reminded me like a sort of like a slower version of like sort of like psychedelic porn crumpets, I guess. And I
Wow,
was like,
interesting.
oh, this is heavy. I really liked it.
Yeah, so that was my first band I was ever in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I grew up. And I was just out of high school, and there was a basically like a couple houses downtown St. Petersburg where a lot of for many, many years it was kind of passed down through different generations of college students and like all sorts of people, and they're really curated like this beautiful art scene, mostly through these few houses and the St. Pete music scene. And luckily I randomly helped a high school friend with, a project she had playing drums, and I met a guitarist, Drew, who, invited me into the band. And um, he really opened up a world of like amazing garage rock. I really hadn't listened too much of like Iggy Pop and the Stooges or like the MC5 or like, any of these like rock and roll bands. And so yeah, we were really that was a St. Pete move for sure. And it was a really, really fun band to be in. Honestly, it was always really scary going up on stage with them because you never basically every single we never read a set list, and Drew would play the first little intro of Fuzz, and I'd have to guess what song it was as we jump in.
Oh man.
Which is fun. It was like I explain it like riding a roller coaster with that band. It was a blast. Yeah, it was a really good time. And um, through them, just touring and stuff like that, I met Plastic Pinks, and yeah, I toured with them for many, many years, and absolutely, those are my some of my best friends to this day. I talk to them mostly on a weekly basis for the most part, or try to at least.
That's
Um,
killer.
but
So,
yeah, and again through that, just touring, met my wife and Acid Dad, and um, yeah, I miss all of them a lot. I wish, being up here in New York, I don't get to see them as much in Florida, but um, yeah, good
so is that
times.
is I guess like touring with like all these bands, like is that how like you landed in New York? And I guess that's well, you probably met Acid Dad before in New York, but they were California based, right?
No, they've always been New York based.
Okay,
So
tripping, sorry.
Vaughn is from, no, it's okay. Vaughn is from Nashville, Tennessee, and then Sean is from Minneapolis, and they both moved over here, early for college and things like that. They met, well, Vaughn started the band and then met Sean, and he was in the band. And then more or less while I was touring, um, I heard they needed a drummer. So I yeah, I basically sent in a video. I sent a video to Acid Dad, and with the kind of the sign off from now my wife, who's not my wife at the time, but saying, "Hey, great drummer, you should check out this video he sent you." I literally just recorded like a demo with their songs and was like, "Hey, I'd love to play with you. I'm willing to move to New York. I'm willing to tour." And
Oh, big
I
lag.
credit to my wife who put in a really good word for me. Oh,
That's
sorry, can you hear me?
killer. Yeah, you like it like froze or whatever, but it's all good. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my wife, really put in a good word for me as well. But yeah, I sent in a video and kept in contact, and um, they flew me out for a show. It was kind of like a trial show, and it went well. And I more or less kind of just stayed in New York from that point. Um, and Plastic Pinks at the time was kind of starting to do, they were all my band members were starting to do their own things. And so yeah, it was just a good time to kind of all part ways and move on to bigger and better things.
That's good. I mean, all good things come to an end, so
Yeah.
people got to grow and whatnot. That's killer. You're like the full package deal. Like offering to move and tour and do all this. Plus you come with like these cool hookups and connections. Like that's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I honestly thought like Acid Dad was like a California band before I found out that y'all were in New York. I was pretty sure y'all like Cali for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of association, Hoover 3, Frankie and the Witch Fingers, all these bands, if you look at like Spotify and stuff like that, are recommended
Yeah.
or, different things. So, and I will say there's a lot more of a psych scene, for the most part in the West Coast, just traditionally. If you look back in history, West Coast psych has kind of been a really big thing. But yeah, it's interesting kind of being like this, kind of New York psych band, but having kind of a New York kick to us still, if you will, like
Yeah.
there's trash on our streets, I don't know, like it's New York. It's not as, it's a little rough and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's grimy. It's good. Grime is
Yeah, yeah.
good. It's got
Yeah,
a layer of love, if you will.
love it. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've never been to like New York like and like seen music. Like how do you compare these like these giant cities and their music scenes? Like is there one you prefer to sort of like indulge in or experience, or are there ones that you don't like at all, or
So as like, are you asking as like a personal thing or like playing
yeah,
different places? Oh,
personal.
wow. I really love Austin a lot. I know, like, we're here. Like, genuinely, I love Austin so much. Anytime I get to spend time in Austin, like personally, I try and stay for a few more days and like hang out. And just the music scene is so robust. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, you have Nashville, you have Los Angeles, you have Chicago. Chicago is really up there. I personally love the Empty Bottle, one of my favorite venues of all time. You can see the biggest artists and the smallest artists in that crazy room. I mean, um, and I have to say, like, New York. I mean, I'm not from here, but I indulge heavily in the New York music scene, and I even work at this venue called the Sultan Room, doing door a couple times, a month or something like that. And a lot of it is just like I really like being at the venue, and I really like meeting all these like newer bands and stuff, and it keeps me really in the loop as well. And on the other side of that, I'm really lucky because again, my wife Devin, she's a music photographer, so she drags me out to all the shows. It's great. I love it.
That's
She keeps me
awesome.
active. Yeah.
Have you ever been to Baby's All Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we played our last like New York show was there. We did one night at Mercury Lounge, and then the next night we played Babies. Um, yeah, I love Babies. I mean, again, that's a venue you can see the biggest artist and the smallest artist, and it's a really great place. Yeah, love
I've
Babies.
I've heard like so many good things. I have a buddy that books for the venue and he's
Mhm.
coming down here for South by. He's gonna him and his brother, they actually both book for the venue. They're called like the Kerwin brothers. It's sort of like a I don't even know what you call it, but I think that's like a funny title. But they're coming down. They're gonna crash on my couch for all of South by because they're gonna do like some showcases and whatnot. But that place, I've heard so many good things. I also have another buddy that drove all the way up there to get their old mixer,
Oh,
which was
really?
so bizarre. Like the manager was like, "Hey, I have this old mixer," and he's like, "Do you want it?" And so he drove all the way up from Austin and brought it back here, and now he has like the old Baby's All Right mixer for some reason.
That's legendary. What?
Yeah, I mean, y'all probably played through that thing like a couple times at least.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
it's so super random, but also like the music scene there, I've heard it's definitely. I mean, I don't know, I've never been, but I would imagine it's a little different than Austin in sort of like the corporate sense, I guess. I feel like from my outside perspective, I would maybe guess that it's people are trying to like build themselves up and like trying like be seen. And compared to Austin, I feel like Austin is just like we're just like doing our own thing and like we don't care. We're not like trying to put ourselves on like a pedestal. That sounds like pretentious, I guess, but
No, no,
it's like easy down here.
I do understand what you're saying, and I think coming from St. Pete, um, I can understand that. And I think, and I don't want to discount those bands though, um, because they are still musicians and
Oh
they are
yeah.
still, expressing themselves. And I think it's really easy, especially in New York and maybe LA and some of these like maybe Chicago even too, to really get caught up in the numbers because there's a lot of people and there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of comparison. So, you see your friend's band who plays one show and the next thing they're on some big tour and blah blah blah. And it's easy to start comparing and start to kind of be like that. But you kind of have to remind yourself they are just musicians too. And trying to maybe they might think that might be the best vessel to be able to express themselves the best way they can, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I definitely think it breeds some kind of New York creates this like overall kind of anxiety about you have to make it, and it has to be something. And um, I think that's something we also as a band, stepping in the studio, we're like, let's make a really cool record for the sake of making a really cool record and the sake of jamming with your friends and not get caught up with the New York and the record sales and all that, as wonderful and great as they are, and it allows us to do more. It allows us to do a better production every time we come and to do a cooler looking splatter. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like really about the music and it's about creating music that we want to create and having a lot of fun doing it. Like having fun. That's like the biggest thing I can stress. But I agree. I think you lose kind of the fun sometimes in New York and it gets really serious here. Where I've seen a little bit in Austin, it's, yeah, it's a little more chill vibe um, but I love it here. I
Yeah,
love it here. I want to say like the grind is real, but it you know, it's fun for me. It's fun for me. I enjoy it.
yeah, it's killer. There's just like I feel like my friend has been there a few times and she's like, yeah, the stigma of sort of like getting like the industry's eye is like
Mhm.
so prominent, which I understand, like you don't want to like work like five jobs and then like also like be gigging every night. Like you want to get there, you want to get to that level where you can be like comfortable and like still do your
Mhm.
art. Like it
Well,
just seems so wild.
I think a big part is also you have to consider a lot of really big agencies and record labels and things are based out of New York. Now starting to be more Austin and things like that. So I'm interested to see how Austin growing as a city and having all these new tech companies move in and unfortunately housing rising and stuff like that. I'm actually interested to see how that will affect the Austin music scene as well. That's a really good point. Um, yeah.
It's already affecting it sort of, especially with like the cost of living here starting to come up because all these tech companies are moving in because no income tax or whatever.
Mhm.
There's a couple like these Red River venues are struggling a bunch, and there is like sort of like relief and aid that is factored into like some of our bills here in Austin that help out like venue spaces and whatnot.
Mhm.
But it does still suck to see like them struggle. But also like people moving here, chances of like more musicians and more music and more creativity, that's also great. I'm all for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
more diverse people coming and like way more opportunity for to hear a lot of different kind of music from around the world, really. I mean, this might be a really beautiful thing for the Austin music scene in general to like be, exposed to like maybe of genres that aren't so prevalent in Austin already. Um, yeah, that's pretty exciting in some sense, And in a lot of sense, that's exciting. It will be interesting to see how will it affect the people who have been living there for the past 25 years or so. And, unfortunately goes with it is the housing costs and traffic and things like that. But um, yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting.
I have a buddy, he's like super obsessed with Levitation Psych Fest, like all of the bands on the labels and whatnot. He lives in Minneapolis, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty much moving down to Austin because of what like Psych Fest and Levitation, like what like how that opened my eye. So him and his wife, they're moving down probably like April or May. And they're just like so excited to do whatever it is they're gonna do down here. I don't know what they're gonna do, but he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
Austin is just like prime like creativity. He's a musician himself. He's opened up for Fuzz, which is so random. I don't know how. I don't like. I didn't know there were bands in Minneapolis, um, but he's coming down, and I just think it's like great that there are like cool musicians and whatnot that do see opportunity here, and they're gonna come down. So I'm
That's
hyped
amazing.
for it.
Yeah, cool.
It's just this place is wild. It's growing rapidly, and I don't know. I've lived here all my life, and I've just now figured out that there's like a music scene. Weirdly enough, um, but it's just really this is a really interesting place. I would love to experience New York, obviously. I'd love to experience LA it, just once, honestly. That place seems a little scary for me, but I need to get out more. I need to go to more cities and do I want to see more local music.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a great thing that we have.
Yeah, and as like you said, especially in Austin, there's so many. I mean, like the fact that Black Angels and bands like Daystar and I mean, the list is literally endless of like Austin Psych specifically.
Yeah.
Uh, that yeah, like take focus on the local people around you, and um, it's important. It's definitely important.
Yeah.
But yeah, anytime you come to New York, let me know. I'd love to show you venues and let you know the spots to go for sure.
Dude, yeah, man, that'd be killer. Places I've is there like a you've been to Hotel Vegas, obviously. Is there like
Mhm.
a New York equivalent of that?
Not really, not really, because I mean, Hotel Vegas is its own beast of a
Oh
bar
yeah.
and venue, and I mean, the amount of time and fun times that I've had there at South by and all sorts of things, like there really isn't something equivalent in that sense. Because there's not really like outdoor areas, to like play in New York.
Yeah.
Um, so not really, not that vibe. I mean, most venues are like indoors and it's very like New York and there's something a little like the dirt in the backyard, of Hotel Vegas is something special to me. If that makes sense, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's wild. I love Vegas so much. Like that place will always have like a special place in my heart. I've seen so many. I mean, I haven't seen a whole bunch of like out of town bands. I've seen like Daikaiju there.
Mm.
That band is crazy, but so many good local bands, honestly.
I mean,
Um,
I've seen some of the I most South by for the past. I haven't gone in maybe 5 years or something like that, but I went I think 10 years in a row just playing with Plastic Pinks and Sonic Graffiti and so on and so forth. And I probably spent 90% of my time just at Hotel Vegas, just there for 12 hours a day or 24 hours a day, basically until they kicked you out. Um, you know, yeah. Oh, speaking of Hotel Vegas, actually, I've been talking about Program Week a lot. I think they're playing coming up, Hotel Vegas coming up for South by. So if y'all around, pull through.
that's sick.
Um,
Yeah. Are they
they're
like a
really great.
are they official this year?
Yeah, they are. They're
Okay.
official. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's
That's
it's pretty
that's
funny
sick.
because out of the 10 years I played South by, I probably only played 2 official like years or something like that.
Yeah,
Many years of just playing all the house shows, which are the absolute best, playing Fine Southern Gentlemen, or excuse me, FSG.
yeah.
Excuse me, sorry, that was a long time ago. Um, FSG, when they were a little tiny warehouse and they had to move all the shirts out and a lot of really, really, really great times. I've met most of everybody I know and all of my friends at South by in Austin during those weeks. I will say,
That's killer.
literally
Have you ever been
everybody I
to
know.
have you ever been to like any of like did you go to any of the like co-op shows like on campus, like Pearl Street or like House of Commons, 21st Street, New Guild?
I don't think I have actually. I
So
don't think I
there's this like this is kind of like a crazy like web of things, but there's like this sort of like community living in like on the west side of UT campus. And so there's probably like 4 or 5 houses and it's like a bunch of guys and girls and also like half of like the population is like from across the world like UK, um Asia, like all over there. So it's just a bunch of kids living in this like community living space. Like we do labor and whatnot, but our parties like during South by are freaking nuts because we just reach out to like the super sick bands that are coming down, because like you only get like maybe 2 showcases if you're
Mhm,
official,
mhm.
and these guys want to stay down and just like play more shows. So we hit them up and they come play, and everybody comes over, and it's just one giant party. It's so much fun.
That's amazing. Yeah, that sounds about South By to me, or at least Austin. No, I don't think I have. Um, I think what was the church, the
Electric Church.
Electric Church? Yeah, done a handful of shows there for sure. Honestly, I hate to say it, there's been a lot of shows I've forgotten about because with Plastic Pinks, we would do sometimes 3 to 4 shows a day for that entire week. And it was like, starting at 11 o'clock, ending at 4 in the morning, and ran from venue to venue to venue. And uh, I don't know how we stayed alive during that time, just, but so I honestly, I don't know. I could maybe.
That's wild. I've my drummer, he's in like maybe like 3 or 4 other bands. He played like 20 sets last year for South by. He was like running and gunning. It was
Yeah.
insane. Like he posted on his Instagram just like this notes app of like every like gig he had, and like the comments were like, "You're like not gonna be alive, dude." Like what?
Yeah. It's
It's
funny. We used to have this kind of like rule or like whatever with Plastic Pinks. If you got a wristband, you kept it on all weekend because then you start getting the same wristbands and you just start getting into places. And like at the end of the weekend, we had 10, 15, 20 wristbands. I think there's a picture on my Instagram of like one of my first South by runs, and my wrist is just stacked with wristbands from all weekend, and they're gnarly looking too. They're
yeah.
torn up
That
and
my hands like last year they were just like I was still 20 at the time, so I just had like X's just like stained on my hands for
yep.
like 10 days. It was brutal,
My
but
first
worth
my
it.
first South by tour ever with Sonic Graffiti, I was 19, and we played Hotel Vegas, and then they kicked me out. They wouldn't even give me X's. They would not let me even in the venue. So I sat outside, which I think is like a wine shop or something now. There's like a little staircase next to it. I just sat there and just hung out for, all my friends were in Vegas hanging out. They were all older than me at the time, and I just hung out outside of all the venues.
Yeah.
Holy Mountain 2 is another venue we played, which is not around anymore.
Wait,
Um,
which one?
I think it's Holy Mountain. It was
Hole,
right
you
across.
mean Holy Mountain? I've never heard of that one. You mean
It
Hole in the
was
Wall?
no, this was probably maybe even 10 years ago.
Oh
I don't
wow.
know if it lasted very long. I don't know.
I've never
Um,
heard of it, so
but
maybe
yeah, I
not.
was I was not allowed in. I was allowed to play, and then I was told to leave. So that was it.
Yeah.
My
That's
first South by experience.
that's what Vegas was doing to us last year, which I totally get it. Whatever.
Yeah, the law's the
But
law, and I get it, but it was funny.
yeah, good times, great times. Well, my hour is pretty much up. Do you like want to shout anybody out before we head out of here?
Well, I've already said Program Week like 20 times, but if you please check them out, they're really good friends of ours and studio mates and best buds. I love their music, obviously. Um, and I just, shout out the Reverb team and Harry and all of them. And yeah, thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, man. If I ever make it up to New York, I would love to check out y'all space or whatever the Reverb label place or whatever.
Yeah,
Sounds super
we
dope.
love having visitors. We got mate and all sorts of drinks and fun stuff and records we'll send you home with. And please come anytime.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Trevor. I'm gonna play a couple songs um after you dip out over the air. Um, just like from bands that you've been in, and then yeah, maybe I'll see you around in Brooklyn or something.
Definitely. If not, I'll see you in Austin for sure. Definitely be
All
there
right.
soon.
Have a good one, man. Thank you so much again.
Thanks. Take care. Take care.
Peace.